firstly, this is a brief timeline of my journey from SYPT to IYPT. So it starts off around this time when I'm preparing for the SYPT prelims, which is a shortlisting for the final 8 teams to enter the SYPT semi-finals. After that, there will be a period of preparation for the SYPT finals, which takes place in January, as Mr. Tan has already said. And after that, the selected individuals who have done an outstanding job at the SYPT finals will then be shortlisted to go for IYPT interviews. And at the interview, you will be the best 9 individuals will be shortlisted to enter the IYPT preliminary research, which lasts over a period of time of roughly 3 months, where we will be working on some problems, and then finally there will be another round of selection where the best 5 individuals will finally enter the national team. And then after that, the national team will go to the country to join the IYPT, which next year will be in Singapore. So firstly, I would like to talk about the SYPT prelims, which is basically where we will be working on the selection question, which was light rings last year and single lens telescope this year. And also there will be 2 additional problems which we would want to give a brief presentation about to show your progress. So basically what happened for us is that we have a 3-member team for SYPT. So we allocated 1 member to work on the selection question full-time, and of course the other 2 members will also help out with the data collection and brainstorming the theory. Then for the additional problems, because the time to present on these is very short, not a lot of work has to be put into these compared to the selection problem, and therefore we allocated only 1 member to each of the problems. Finally, after we cleared the preliminary selections, we would start work for the SYPT 2016 finals, which is in January, where the last 8 teams, where the shortlisted 8 teams will duke it out. So basically, for category B, we had 8 problems, and this will be the same for SYPT 2017. So because we had 2 teams from NUS High School, we split up our 8 problems into the 2 different teams, and each team will have 3 members working on 3 problems. And of course, not all the problems need to be attempted because of limited resources, time, and members. So therefore, we prioritize the problems based on the likelihood of us completing them. So we skipped out Super Ball and Crazy Suitcase. And then each member of the teams was allocated 1 problem to report and oppose during the final SYPT. And of course, the problems were shared with the other team. That means you would work on 1 problem for yourself and then take over another problem from the other team. That was how NUS High School did it. And here are some pictures of my experimental setup for the problem lagging pendulum. As you can see, it wasn't very safe, so please, safety first. Yeah, don't do this. Okay, so for the results of the SYPT 2016, my team clinched the champion in category B. However, I would like to re-emphasize at this point that the real goal of SYPT is not really the medals or the achievements that you earn at SYPT, but it's rather the experience that you gain working towards the medals. And also, you should be exploring your passion for physics during the SYPT process, and you should not let the end result define your journey through SYPT. So after the SYPT, I was selected to go for the IYPT interviews, which was at DSO. And yeah, the individuals from the winning Cat A and B teams will be selected, and also other nominated individuals who have performed well. And at the interview, basically what happens is that we presented our best report and the planned future work for that problem to a panel who would then select the best 9 individuals to get through. After this comes the IYPT preliminary research, which is probably the most stressful part of the IYPT selection process. So what we did for this year was we took the 17 problems and we split it up into less complete problems at that stage and more complete problems, because we are combining all the work that has been done by all the schools at SYPT. And basically, these are the more complete problems that we did not work on during this period. And since we had 9 people selected for the IYPT preliminary research, we therefore chose the 9 less complete problems to work on, which are these. The red one is the problem that I did. And during this period of time, you have to go to the RI cluster labs to do work quite a few times a week. And I went between 3 and 4 times a week to RI from February or March all the way until April. And this is in preparation for the final IYPT team selection, which is basically 9 SYPT-style physics fights where basically you'll be reporting the problem that you've been working on during the selection, and you'll also be opposing one of the other 9 that has been working with you. And therefore, this is a very important part of the journey, because if you get kicked after 3 months of work at RI Cluster Labs, it will be quite a waste of your efforts, and therefore it is very important to get through at this point. So the best 5 performers will make the final team, and therefore the IYPT 2016 team was comprised of these 5 people. Junheng Whitman, who will be presenting later, me, Arif, and Kangchen. So after this comes the IYPT intensive preparation, where the final 5 people will be going to RI Cluster Labs again to do work until the IYPT. And here you can see that the setup is a lot safer. So there will also be a residential camp at RI, where you'll be spending 4 day 3 night at the RI hostel. As you can see, the RI hostel is pretty good. I'm not saying that NUS Taiwan is not, but I'm just saying it's good. It's aircon. And during that time, you'll be bonding with the team, and of course, you'll be working almost from morning to night to prepare your problems. In addition, your June holidays are not really holidays, because your daily schedule looks something like this. It's IYPT pretty much all the way through the day. However, after you get to the flying off date, these are some photos from our departure at Changi Airport and people not following the rules in the airplane. And when we get to IYPT, what happens is there will be an opening ceremony, and all the countries will draw lots to determine the fight matrix allocations for the preliminary 5 fights. So it will be a bit like SYPT, where SYPT there are 4 preliminary fights and 1 finals. For IYPT there will be 5 fights, but each fight you have to go up 3 times, so there will actually be 15 fights plus 1 finals. So we drew an 8, which was pretty good, and this is us celebrating because we drew a pretty good one. And we did not really have to fight any strong teams during the preliminary 5 fights. Here are some photos of our outings throughout the IYPT, interspersed with the preliminary fights. This is us at the river in Yekaterinburg, and this is our meal with our Russian guides. In addition, you will notice that the people at IYPT are not very scary. A lot of teams want to take photos with us after the fights and before the fights, and here are some photos that we took with the Belarus team, who are very nice. Finally, you come to the IYPT finals if you make it to for IYPT, there will either be 3 or 4 teams in the final fights, and this depends on the preliminary fight. So for us, there was a 4-corner fight because Taiwan managed to win all their preliminary fights. So a 4-corner fight lasts 4 hours, and that's quite long. But and also it's a very big stage up there, and you get quite scared. But once you're up there, nothing really matters more than doing justice to almost a year's worth of your hard work. So this is me at the finals presenting Lengen Pendulum, which I presented at both SYPT and IYPT finals. And in the end, we did win the IYPT 2016. This is us getting the medal, this is Whitman cheering. And we also had a farewell party after the IYPT in Russia. So now, having talked about my journey, I'd like to talk a little bit about Lengen Pendulum, which is the report that followed me almost all the way through the SYPT and IYPT journey. So for SYPT qualifying, which is the shortlisting to 8 teams, I actually didn't work on Lengen Pendulum, it was Kang Chen who worked on it. And then for the SYPT finals in January, I took over from him and I completed, didn't complete it, but I worked on the Lengen Pendulum for the SYPT finals. And I presented it there, and we won the SYPT finals. And also, this is the problem that I presented at the IYPT interview to get into the final 9 people to go to the IYPT research. And also, finally, it was the problem that we presented at the IYPT finals, which we won. So basically, when you are doing a report, it's very important to start from the literature review, because this is basically where you'll be getting most of your theory from. So I believe there will be a book of, there will be a reference guide that will be couriered to all the schools containing papers and literature that you can refer to for all the problems. And I do highly recommend looking through all of this very carefully, because it will help you quite a lot during the during your SYPT. And also, For the theory side, it mainly consists of mathematical simulations, which will make up your theory. Whereas for the experimental side, obviously you need an experimental setup. You need a good data collection method, which will depend highly on the kind of problem that you have. And to come up with the final report, you need to have some sort of reconciliation between your theory and data. And if everything goes well, the theory should match the data. Yeah. So, of course, it doesn't always go well, and a lot of the times you will notice that your theory and data do not really coincide. And this is something that happened to me as well, preparing the lagging pendulum problem. Normally, if you take theories from literature, it should not be that wrong, but they're not always correct. But more likely than not, if you're facing a problem with matching your theory and experiments, it's most likely your experimental setup. So to talk a bit more about some of the problems that I faced going through this lagging pendulum problem, I'd like to give a preface on what this problem was about. So basically, the problem statement asks us to attach a pivot to a motor and rotate this pivot in a circle. And to this pivot, we attach a pendulum, which is made out of a string and a bob. And under certain conditions, the pendulum can actually trace a smaller radius than the pivot, which is quite interesting, and this is what we had to investigate in the problem. So you can see here that this is basically 3D graphics of the problem and matching it to the experiment. And what happens in here is that when we attach a camera that spins along with the pivot, you notice that the pendulum is actually stationary in the rotating frame. However, what I did want to investigate is what happens when you perturb the pendulum, so it will start moving in the rotating frame and it will draw very funny shapes when you look at it. So basically, what we see here is that the pendulum will start to make oscillations. And however, it is very difficult to predict the exact trajectory of the oscillations. So what we typically do when we face this kind of thing is that we perform a method called fast Fourier transform to analyze oscillations. And this can be performed either programmatically or using software. So here we see our results. We have two peaks that we simulate for the pendulum. That means two different frequencies at which the pendulum will oscillate when you perturb it. And we can see that our experiments do show these two peaks. However, there was a third peak that we did not predict, which is quite problematic because if you bring this kind of graph to IYPT, people will definitely raise a lot of questions about it. So this third peak is a problem that we had to fix, and we spent quite a lot of time on it. And basically, what this third peak is telling us is that it is at the driving frequency, which is the frequency at which the pivot is rotating at. So what we know is that the fast Fourier transform will break down the movement of the pendulum into oscillatory frequencies. And we can see that it's exhibiting the unpredicted oscillation at the rotation frequency of the pivot. And therefore, this is indicating that something is constantly pushing the pendulum out of alignment at the same frequency as the pivot rotating. And what we hypothesized when I came together with my teammates to discuss this problem is that we hypothesized it's actually due to our setup not being very perfect, and our setup is actually tilted. So what happens is that when a setup is tilted, as you can see here, which is quite exaggerated, what happens is that when the pendulum is moving, the gravity vector will actually oscillate because the entire setup is tilted. So this will cause the perturbation. This will cause the pendulum to be perturbed by gravity at the same driving frequency, and therefore we suspect that this is the reason why we have a third peak. So I'll skip some of this. So basically, what we tried to do to fix this is basically look at our experimental setup and see what we can do better. And what we did is we raised the entire setup up on jacks that allows us to fine-tune the tilt in the entire system until we can eliminate the tilted system as much as we can. And we noticed after that our third peak is almost gone. So this is rather good troubleshooting. And this entire sequence of slides actually made it into the final version of the IYPT slides that I presented. So it's quite important to show your process that you go through when you're troubleshooting your work. And therefore when the judges see that you've been putting a lot of effort into trying to solve the problems that you encounter, this will definitely give you a slight edge. So basically, we fixed this problem after brainstorming with my teammates, which was very invaluable. But at the same time, you must remember that if your teammates ask you for help, you should return the favor. So having said this about my report, I'd like to give a few final words about the IYPT and what I learned. So we went to IYPT 2016, coming off as 3-time defending champions. Here we can see the winning team from 2013, 2014, and 2015. And therefore, you can imagine that there's a lot of pressure to live up to continue the winning streak. So what I learned very importantly is that we often look at people and think we can never stand on the same stage as them. And this is certainly something that happened to me, looking at this group of individuals and thinking I can never perform as well as them and live up to the standard that they have achieved. However, we do not often realize that everyone is the same when we start off, and we are always trying to look up, we're always looking up to people whom we think we can never, whose level we can never achieve. So what I recommend is that you should really just dive in, and you'll be shocked at how hard you can push yourself throughout the entire SYPT experience. And when you come out of it at the end, you will realize that you have grown quite a lot. So now I'd like to tell you my opinion on what I really think that IYPT is. So firstly, it is an experience of a lifetime. And we often think that the people that we fight against, people from other countries or people from other schools at the SYPT level, are barriers to our success and challenges to ourselves. However, we do not realize that that we are all humans, and therefore we should be making friends and not viewing them as obstacles in our path to success. And therefore, I do recommend that you should make friends, because these opportunities do not really come very often. In addition, I feel that IYPT is a hardship that you face together with your teammates, because while you go to training every day and you see them smiling and laughing, we all know that behind the always smiling masks lie frowns and tears, and therefore my responsibility during IYPT is to share the load with all of my teammates. And finally, I believe that IYPT is a challenge to yourself, because if you walk into IYPT willingly, you must really finish what you start, and this is the thing that drove me to the end from SYPT to IYPT. So in conclusion, I believe that IYPT is a lot more than just simply solving problems, and it is about the team spirit and the personal growth and the experience of the entire journey from SYPT to IYPT. So it is not really a competition, but more of a journey, in my opinion. Thank you for your time.